Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Entrepreneurial Mindset. Get your company started. Now we're at the moment where we can get our company started. Let's recap what we did so far and what we are going to do in this chapter. We looked at the entrepreneurial approach. And the entrepreneurial approach is basically that everyone can start a business because everyone has some relevant experience, or most of the people have relevant experience. And you can use that experience in order to start with very, very little means. And this is basically the entrepreneurial mindset. We talked about how you can get an idea. You can generate that by just looking around, be open, have an entrepreneurial mindset again, and how to differentiate ideas from opportunities. However, even if you found an opportunity, you don't know whether this is really working out or not. We saw that before. This is why getting yourself started is about affordable loss, using very little means, doing it stepwise and so on. So it's a very lean approach for yourself, and actually also it's a very lean approach for your startup. And this is why we basically focus on lean startup when we say get your company started. And lean startup is a concept developed by Eric Ries, and the basic concept is a cycle which is called build, measure, learn, and this should be our first part in this chapter. The build, measure, learn loop is about building your product, measuring whether your product could be successful in the market, gathering data and learning on this data about how to improve that, and going that cycle over and over again. So let me go deeper into this build, measure, learn loop. We call it BML loop, in order to understand what this is really about. So first of all, you build your product, and building your product starts by having some hypothesis on what could work out. So what you do is you think about which problem you are going to solve and how you're going to solve that problem, and then you have an hypothesis that this is bringing value to the customer, and your company can grow, so your service is being adapted by more and more customers. And these are the two main hypotheses you might have. And if you want to start your business, you have to check on these hypotheses. So it is not only about, and this is the next step, building a product, or we call it the minimum viable product. So you start with a real small application, small tool, small whatever. But it is also about taking that small application in order to try to learn whether this could work with your potential customers, whether the customer sees some value in that, and whether more and more customers will come and buy your product. So you start with the hypothesis. This is the first step, as we see over here. And then you build your first minimum viable product. And it's really minimum. It is not the biggest, the best product you could ever build. It is about starting in the market, because still, and think about the clothing company, still you don't know whether someone is really willing to pay the premium for someone who tells you what to wear. So this is why you have to test the hypothesis that this is going to work. So the goal of the minimum viable product is test the hypothesis. This is, by the way, the affordable loss, which you might want to define. This is what I'm willing to lose in the first step. You target the early adopters, which is a specific group of people, and the focus is on time to market. So learn fast, and better fail early than fail late, because it costs you a lot more money. If you put that product into the market, then you have to measure your hypothesis. And measuring your hypothesis means look at the real measures that tell you that you're bringing value or growth to the people. It is not about vanity measures. It is not about people who told you, oh, I like it, but they never come buying again. It is about people who are really into your product, like they very much, will buy again, and so on. Try to find those real measures in order to try to learn whether your hypothesis is true or not. And that's the next step. You have the hypothesis, you measure, and you try to generate the data which help you in knowing if your hypothesis is true or not, which is the next step. And the next step is if you, for example, go and build a website, you can do a split testing. You take the even IP numbers and the uneven IP numbers and give those people different websites and look what happens. And if the people on the even websites have higher conversion rates than the uneven, or the opposite, and then you can really test the hypothesis. And if you have tested the hypothesis, then you learn something out of that, and you can go through the cycle again and again. So you can say, okay, I have to change something, I have to change a little bit, or I have to change it a lot, which means pivoting or preserving. That's the general build, measure, learn cycle. And if you have tested the hypothesis, then you go over and over again until you're successful with your own company. And this is the main cycle of lean startup, of starting lean, which is on the right side, really lean, and learning over time to make your company successful. Or as Michael Dell said, give it a go and look what happens. But it's not only looking what happens, it's about specific learnings out of that cycle. This is what we are going to introduce in the next chapters in more detail.